Yeah. So, in case you didn't know, Animal Crossing, the video game, has a movie. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about it, but it's just, I dropped my phone. I'm pretty sure everybody knows about it, but I feel like every single time I bring up the fact that there's a movie on this channel, you have the people that are like, oh my god, yeah, slay, I love the movie, it's amazing, yes. And then you have the people that are like, wait, what? So for the people that are like, wait, what? This video's for you. Yeah, there's a movie in Animal Crossing, and no, it's not like some fan-made fun little thing. No, this is like an actual movie that was in theaters. I think I should have Googled that. Hi, I want to tell you about the movie because I recently watched it again after a very, very long time, and I was like, oh my god, I need to make a video about this because honestly, the movie is great, it's fun, but it's also weird. And I literally sat down while I was watching the movie. Do you see this? I wrote words because I had thoughts about this film and I just need to share them with you. And also, my job as the hottest Animal Crossing player alive, I just feel like I need to let y'all know about how weird this movie is. So that's what this video is. You're gonna just sit here and watch me sitting here acting like a fool as I just try to explain what this movie is. You could probably just watch it on your own. It's online for free, but I think it's more fun to see someone struggle to tell you what the movie is about rather than figuring it out for yourself. I'm trying to make it easier on your brains, So the movie begins and the scene opens up right away to see that we are in the back of somebody's car. Whose car are we in the back seat of? It's Cappen's. Why is it Cappen's car? Because Wild World was during Cappen's cabbie era. He is a taxi driver. But then the scene is going by so fucking fast, it's hard to keep up. But then all of a sudden, bam, we're not sitting in the back seat. It's actually the main character who's sitting in the back seat. I is the main character of this film. She is a human person. She's moving to a new village. Good for her. But I think it's important to note that according to my trusted sources, I is 11 years old. She's 11 years old and she's moving to a new town. Blah, blah, blah. The girls are kikiing, they're chatting, blah, blah, blah. And then after passing through a tunnel and coming out the other side, I sticks her head out the window, hereditary tease, and she looks off into the distance and sees Animal Village at the end of the rainbow, her future home. Now, if you don't know, back in high school, English was my favorite subject, which is ironic because I have beef with the English language. But because of that, I'm pretty prone to analyze scenes and look for the deeper meaning in them. The end of the rainbow being at Animal Village could symbolize so many things. It could symbolize hope. It could symbolize happiness. I personally believe that this scene means that the town is very, very gay. So while the title and the beginning credits are rolling on screen, obviously the Wild World theme song is playing in the background, and that theme song slaps. The nostalgia kicks in as soon as it starts playing, so I'm crying in my bed. And then after that, the taxi pulls in onto the plaza right in front of Town Hall, and I is officially arriving in Animal Village. And what's the first thing she does? She jumps out the car, runs off into the distance, and screams at nothing. Friendly reminder that she is 11, so this reaction, maybe it's valid, maybe it isn't. I'm not a child psychologist. So then after that, we meet Pelly, who's the town hall secretary, and she's telling I everything there is to know about the village. I's obviously not paying attention, and then sadly, we as viewers, as well as I, are forced to sit through the introduction of the Crust Lord himself, Mayor Tortimer, aka Floppimer. I am very anti-old men. I don't give a fuck about them. No offense to any old men in the chat, but all you need to know about Tortimer is that he's the current mayor, there's an election coming up, so he's shaking in his boots and he's crusty. Kelly lets I know about her landlord, which happens to be the icon himself, Mr. Tom Nook, and she lets her know that she's got to go to Nook's Cranny to pick up her keys, so I is off to Nook's Crannies to get the damn keys. I has headed off to Tom Nook's place, and after meeting him, Tom Nook sees this 11-year-old child and immediately forces her into child labor. I is now Nook's delivery girl. And obviously I, being 11 years old, is against this. Tom Nook tells her the quickest way for you to get used to your new life is by working, and that by being a delivery girl, she's able to introduce herself to her new neighbors. Mr. Thomas Nookington is kind of smart for this because, in case you don't remember, I is a broke-ass little child who just moved into a new town, and she's got to make her rent somehow, so obviously, yay, she's making money right away. If I was in this situation, I feel like being a delivery delivery boy, and going up to random people and striking conversation would be a lot easier than just being a random person and going up to random people and striking conversation. You know, it's like, what are you supposed to do if you're just the new neighbor and you go up to someone and you're just like, hey, like what? It's easier if you're the delivery person. You can just be like, hey, I have a delivery for you. Also, it's me. Then again, I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad at socializing. Ai is off and she started her job and she's zooming around. We of course see the most iconic character in the movie. It's Hopper. He just likes to fish. Stan Hopper. And then after zooming along and doing some things, Ai makes it to the first house, which belongs to none other than Rosie, our blue icon. I literally just wrote in my notes, yes. I don't know if you can see it. I just wrote yes, yes, yes. Rosie is an icon. Rosie is a legend. Rosie is a peppy villager, and I do believe that this first scene shows how much of a peppy villager Rosie is and how they are in their natural habitat. So Ai and Rosie become friends instantaneously, and Rosie begins to ask some really personal questions. So we're just gonna move on from that and head off to the next scene. And then next on the chopping block, we meet Alfonso, another main character who ordered 500 pies. And Ai tries to introduce herself to him, but like obviously he don't give a fuck. He got 500 pies. But then out of nowhere, a ninja boy pops into the scene and he's trying to chase a bug, and Alfonso runs off with him, leaving Ai alone with the 500 pies. Oh my god. And then my notes once again. I literally wrote, and then yes, it's a fucking baddie. Yes, slay. Yes, it's Whitney. Okay, it's Whitney. We have Whitney in this movie. We won. The icon herself. Ai is introducing herself to Whitney. Is she the baddest villager in Animal Crossing? Discuss in the comments. Her and Ai, you know, they introduce each other and they click right away. Whitney offers to help Ai learn to be a lady. Like, it's giving very pageant mom tease, you know? I don't know what's up with that, but like, go off, I guess. So leaving Whitney's place, Ai says that Whitney was pretty, and I fucking agree. So as she heads back to wherever she's headed to, we see Champ run by. Y'all remember the whole Champ and Porter drama thing? So then she makes a delivery to Able Sisters, and while looking at some cute clothes, bam, there's an elephant in the room. It's not an elephant, it's Margie. Well, Margie is an elephant. It's not just any elephant though, it's Margie. Margie is here to show off some of her designs to Able Sisters, and Ai kind of feels a little intimidated by that, so she just leaves. Good for her. And after a long day of work, Ai is finally walking to see her house for the first time, and lo and behold, she has a house with an ocean view. She's 11 years old with a house along the beach. I live in Toronto, and that shit over here would be like $1 million. So the fact that like in the AC universe, her house being fully upgraded means she doesn't have to pay for it. So she's living in that house for free. Animal Crossing is just out here setting unrealistic standards for how we live in this world. I hate it here. So Ai is obviously excited because she gets to see her house for the first time. So she's running off to the house, and then bam, all of a sudden we're meeting a new character for no reason. It's a random spider that just lands on her face. And Ai begins to scream, cry, and throw up, which honestly is a valid reaction because I too would have the same reaction if a spider landed on my face. And then all of a sudden, the ninja human boy comes out of nowhere, jumps out of a fucking tree, and catches the spider. Good for him, I guess. The two human people finally meet, and we learn that this boy's name is Yu. And he comes from a nearby village, and he likes to just come over and play. All you need to know about Yu is that he's a menace, and I'm pretty sure that once he becomes an adult, he'll probably go to jail at least 2 times in his life. And then as a little welcoming gift, he gives Ai a beetle for no fucking reason other than the fact that he's a menace, and Ai begins to scream. So this being a 2000s coming of age tale, obviously that means it's time for a montage, and we see Ai slay queening as a delivery girl, and girl, she is delivering these damn packages. She's starting to bond with Rosie, she's decorating her house, and she's just zooming along on that damn bike. So now after the montage, it's a new dawn, it's a new day. Ai is clocked in and ready to get her bag as she stands in front of a house that has a garden full of blue roses. If you know what the fuck is about to go down right now. This is the first instance of drama in the movie. The package that Ai is holding is for none other than Mr. Apollo, and I realizes that he's not home, so she decides to just leave and come back later. But as she's heading back to her little bicycle, out of fucking nowhere, the menace himself, not you, comes zooming in, chasing some fucking bug, which startles I, and then damn, I falls into Apollo's blue roses and causes some of them to get destroyed. Dun dun dun. And then after that, some random ass person pops out of the fucking ground, and guess who it is? It's another little icon, Mr. Rossetti. Yeah. Rossetti comes flying out of the ground, and he is pissed. He is fuming at what I has done. Seeing I shaking in her boots and realizing that it was actually an accident, he simply just warns her that fucking up Apollo's garden was not the luckiest of moves, and he scrams. And as he's scramming, he's telling I to go look for Apollo at the roost to apologize, which is where he usually hangs out. So then after a nice little fade to black transition, we see I open a door and enter a dark and mysterious room that happens to be full of dinosaurs. I is screaming, crying, throwing up at the sight as Blathers and Celeste, our two icons, we have so many fucking icons in this movie, come running to her rescue. She then learns that she was just simply in a dinosaur exhibit at a museum because duh. Blathers gets excited from this and starts talking to shit about dinosaurs, which honestly, good for him. And Celeste takes her to the roost, and as she does that, we learn of the Seismosaurus, which is the only fossil missing from the dinosaur exhibit. This is important for later, so please keep it in your head. Celeste tells I about the observatory, which is where she usually works and hangs out, and this reminds me of the fact that we as New Horizons players were robbed of the observatory. Nintendo, I'm gonna fight you because of that. And then, yes, bitch, yes, we're in the fucking roost, and there's our fucking boy, Mr. Brewster, just chilling about, being the legend that he is. So I has made it her way to the roost, and she sees these two crusty fucking villagers just sitting at a table. So she goes up to them and asks if either one of them are Apollo, and they just fucking laugh at her for no reason. And I feel like this scene is just a perfect summary of men as a whole. Why? Because it makes no sense. Just like them. So after that, they never actually introduced themselves like by name. So in case you don't know, the gorilla boy is Caesar and the anteater dude is Cyrano. They're not useful characters at all. They're literally just there. Cyrano tells I that Apollo used to be a friendly guy before he tried to run away from the village a little while ago, and nobody knows why. And then bam, Apollo walks in and orders his usual from Brewster. And as a child, when I saw Apollo for the first time, the first thought that came into my head was smash. So then Caesar asks him, hey, what's up? Why are you in a mood? And Apollo spills and says that he's a little disappointed and fuming at the fact that someone destroyed his blue rose garden, which obviously leads I to shake and tremble in her boots because she knows it was her, but she decides to muster up all the courage and walk up to Apollo and give her his delivery and apologize. And while apologizing, she just starts crying, which honestly, I would do the same thing. Apollo hears her, Apollo sees her, Apollo respects her, kind of, but he doesn't say anything after she apologizes, and he just walks up, leaving everybody confused, and the scene just goes on from that. So I spends the rest of the movie hearing of Apollo, and she's worried that he hates her. Apollo just didn't decide to share his feelings at the moment. What the fuck? So we're in a new scene and we see I struggling her ass to get up this damn hill, but then bam, literally Margie comes out of nowhere and starts to help I. She wants to help I because she's learned recently that one of her talents is her physical strength, and she wants to put it to good use, as she should. And then they walk by a cherry tree and stop to grab a few cherries. So there's this whole spiel about like a cherry pie and how like eating it by yourself is really hard, and how the leftovers are just gonna get left behind in the fridge. I think, yeah, that's probably what happens. And it leads to this like really unnecessary TED Talk that reminds us that this is a 2000s coming of age film from Margie, where she compares talents to foods. She's like, you gotta keep using your talents or else they're gonna go to waste, like that damn cherry pie in the fridge. Margie helping I out was in turn helping herself out because she's a strong woman. Basically, she's selfish. She has selfish motives. Good for her. So then she shakes a tree, shaking the tree so hard only one cherry falls off. you're a strong woman, but only one cherry falls out. Interesting. Yum, yum, yum. They eat the damn cherry. And honestly, like, they're satisfied with only one cherry. I need it. I don't like cherries, but if I'm eating them, I need at least 6. So then after all that, they finally introduce themselves to each other, and they become besties instantaneously. And then later that night, later that night, I is seen writing a letter to her mom, which that was almost 20 years ago, and to this day, we still can't write letters to our mothers in the damn game. Nintendo, what the fuck? So she writes about Margie and how much the girl is inspiring her, and she learns that Margie's dream in life is to be a famous designer. That happens to be her cherry pie, if you will. And then while walking along the beach after writing the letter in the middle of the night, she finds a message in a bottle that reads, "Above the pine forest, on the night of the winter festival, a miracle will occur." And I's confused. She's like, what the fuck? And then after seeing a shooting star that we think is a shooting star, she assumes that the letter was from a UFO. Girl, trust me, it gets weird after this. So then after another fade to black, because this is a 2000s movie, it's a new day and everybody's just slaying and living life on the beach. And we see our 3 girl bosses, Rosie, Margie, and I, which by the way, the 3 of them are friends now. They're just chilling and thriving. And Whitney walks by serving looks, being the icon that she is. And Rosie, being a fucking messy ass bitch, she spills that she heard a rumor that Whitney and Apollo used to date. So in case you're wondering where the whole Apollo-Whitney ship comes from, this is where it's coming from. The official Animal Crossing movie. Therefore, Apollo and Whitney are canon. But I is sitting there still shaking in her boots, fearing of Apollo because of the whole Blue Rose drama, blah blah blah. Margie spills how she's been working with Sable to kind of find a store that would sell one of her designs, so she's been working very, very hard lately because she's trying to make her dreams come true, which good for her. And I and Margie, they keep referencing this damn cherry pie metaphor, and Rosie is just sat there confused as hell, not sure what's going on, and I'm just like, can someone fill her in? She's a part of your fucking squad. She deserves to know what the cherry pie metaphor means. So Hopper fishes up a boot, which I think is very important to highlight. So then after that, I finds another bottle on the beach, which tells her to plant a bunch of pine trees on the spots that are marked on the map. And in case you plan on recreating this town in your game, here's the map on screen for you. And then bam, it's another new day already, and the girl bosses run into fucking Menace and Apollo, who are hunting for more fossils. And then Rosie, being a messy little bitch, she tells them how she once saw a bunch of fossils in a nearby cave, allegedly, which causes Menace to get excited, and they all head off. And all of a sudden, the 5 of them are on a fucking boat heading to a cave in Animal Crossing. There's a cave? What the fuck? Why is this still not a thing in the game? Literally, like, my number one feature for the next game, aside from like better villager dialogue and more personality types, among other things. Okay, so this is like number 10 on the list, I would say. I want cave exploration. Think like Stardew Valley with the mining. That would be pretty cool, don't y'all agree? I agree. So Rosie is struggling to give directions. They end up falling down a fucking giant ass waterfall. Important reminder, this is still Animal Crossing. These girls are doing a near-death experience in Animal Crossing. So meanwhile, there's the Crust Lord himself walking around, and he bumps into Pascal, who says some woke ass shit, and he jumps back into the ocean. And then we cut back to the main crew, who ended up in some deep part of the cave, where after walking for a bit, they find a bunch of ammonites just chilling there, which like good for them. But then I, having the main character syndrome, senses something in the distance, and she runs off to see a giant dinosaur fossil just chilling there. And she remembers the sizes from the museum, and of course the main character is the one who finds the Seismosaurus, because that's just how early 2000s films work. The Menace gets so fucking excited and is so desperate for attention that he tries to get the fossil, this giant ass fossil. The fossil's like this big, and he's like this big in comparison, and he tries to dig it up himself, and then he breaks off a rock from the wall, which literally causes the entire fucking cave to collapse. This boy is a fucking menace. Where is his mother? So they managed to escape the cave, but then the entrance that they used was blocked off, so they're unable to go back in, which leads you to start crying in his boots, which like, boy, this was all your fault. Shut the fuck up. So then bam, we're cutting off to later in the day, I assume, and it's the fireworks festival, festival. Yes, there was a fireworks festival going on, by the way. Everyone is serving looks, everyone looks iconic, and bam, it's time for a KK Slider concert. And Margie decides to request her favorite song, which is KK Bossa. Duh, because KK Bossa's a bop. While KK is singing, I is reminiscing about her friendship with Margie, which is weird because Margie's right next to her, and she recounts how Margie has a dream, and she hopes that one day she will find one for herself. Her cherry pie, if you will. And Rosie is still confused by the whole cherry pie thing. What the fuck? So after the fireworks festival, we see I writing to her mom once again, showcasing the fact that we still can't fucking do that 20 years later. And we learn that she actually ended up getting 2 more bottle messages from this mysterious alien, one of them basically confirming that they are from an alien. And then all of a sudden it's fall, and although fall is the best season for all of us, it can also be the start of people's flop eras, which is the case for I, as we see her bolting. She's running and she is fucking distraught. This girl looks like she's about to burst into tears, and a flashback is playing as I is running off, where Rosie is fuming. She's like, where the fuck were you, you dumb bitch? You missed Margie's farewell party. I's confused. She's like, wait, what? And Rosie lets her know that in order for Margie to pursue her dreams as a fashion designer, she moved away. I would say, honestly, like, this is like a shocking moment in the movie, but it's also the most accurate portrayal of the Wild World city folk experience, because like your villagers would literally just dip without saying anything, just like Margie did. And like, even if you're close with them, even if they were your best friend, even if they were a villager you loved and fucking cherished for your entire life, and like they said like, oh, I will never fucking leave you, they will leave you and they will not say anything. She really just said, I'm out. She is no longer in the running to be America's Next Top Model. So now I is in her flop era, and after getting soaked in the rain, because of course it was raining, she goes back to the roost where all the tea is spilled and she is in shambles. And while KK Bossa is playing in the background, I is reminded of Margie because it's her favorite song, and she starts bawling. The girl starts crying, full tears, full snot coming out of the nose, like it's not good for her. And you know, Miss Whitney, who happens to be there, she is fuming at the sight of Miss I crying, and she's like, why the fuck are you crying, you dumb bitch? You should be happy for the fact that Margie is following her dreams. And I responds being like, obviously I'm happy for her, you stupid idiot. This isn't verbatim, by the way, I'm just being dramatic. She just feels sad because Margie left without saying anything to her, and because of that she feels a little betrayed that her own best friend on the village didn't let her know that she was moving away. And then and then literally Whitney hears this, sees this, and what does she do? She starts fucking laughing. She starts laughing like a fucking menace for no reason. She's just like, ha 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 ha. But she also does tell I, you know, that she needs to believe in herself more. If you start believing in yourself, then your friends will believe in you. I don't know what that fucking means. And I think now's a good time to also remind you that she's 11. There was no need for me to remind you that, but there was also no need for Whitney to tell her to believe in herself. What does that have to do with anything? I don't get it. Maybe I'm just not smart enough. I don't know. So I decides to leave the roost, and as she's leaving, we hear Whitney say how a bond between women is lovely and strong and can never go anywhere no matter how long it's been. But a bond between a man and a woman, once it breaks, it will never be the same. And Apollo hears this. We love the fucking T from Animal Crossing. He's sat on the other side of the door listening in. But then the scene cuts to the next one. I is walking home, and on her way home, she sees this big flop sitting on the beach. Who's this big flop? It's Wendell, our boy, our lovely, lovely boy. And Wendell is starving. He literally looks like he's about to die because this man hasn't eaten in probably like 30 minutes. So I takes him home and begins to feed him. And then ding dong on the door, it's Pete, our delivery boy, who shows up with a letter from none other than Miss Margie herself, where she explains how she's sorry for not spilling the tea that she was leaving, and she didn't tell her because she was gonna cry. That's it. She just didn't want to fucking cry. She asks I to forgive her for her selfishness, which confirms the fact that Margie is selfish, and attached to the letter is a pic of Margie, because this is another little nod to Wild World, because I believe in older games up until New Leaf, another way for you to get your villager photos was when they moved off the island. They would like send it to you if you were close enough, I think. I don't know. I writes to her mom about the letter from Margie and how Margie was able to pursue her dreams by believing in herself, and I wishes to have a dream of her own. Now this is another reminder that I is 11 years old, and normally people don't tend to follow the dreams that they've had since they were 11 years old. It's not really common. I mean, like when I was 11 years old, am I following the dream that I had when I was 11? When I was 11 years old, I wanted to be a YouTuber. So then we see a bunch of sceneries and they're fucking pretty and gorgeous, and then boom, it's winter. Yeah. I is running off somewhere and we see the icon Miss Rosie decorating her house for an upcoming lights competition, which I believe was an event in Wild World. And then I mentions the cherry pie once again, and Rosie still has no idea what she's fucking talking about. Can someone just fill her in? Oh my god, this poor girl, it's been almost a year. Then we see Rossetti decorating all the pine trees with lights, because in the Animal Crossing universe, only pine trees can have lights in them for some reason. And you know, this scene is also to show how there are now a bunch of pine trees everywhere, because I didn't listen to the alien and planted them because she wants this miracle to happen. Menace and Alfonso are dressed as bunnies, and Hopper fishes a moe statue. I just wrote that down for some reason. So Ai's hanging out with her new bestie, Celeste, and while they're looking out the telescope and hanging out in the observatory, they see a fucking UFO crash landing. Girl, this is the part of the movie where shit goes down, okay? So the town all gathers around the crash, and emerging from the ship is none other than the UFO himself, Gulliver. I am very anti-bird. I don't believe in birds. I don't agree with their lifestyle, so I truly do believe that Gulliver, being a seagull, could actually be from another planet. Flopiver is there, Gulliver. He's asking everyone to help find his 5 missing parts so that he can fix his ship because his ship is broken, and everybody splits up. And the menace himself, Yu, remembers seeing something fall into the cave where they were earlier. So the main 4, they run off to the cave. So they're at the entrance of the cave, but it's still blocked because of Yu, so they're trying to move it, and then all of a sudden the rock moves by itself. And who was the one moving the rock? It was none other than Miss Margie, who came back to visit. I and Margie have a little kumbaya moment, and the crew runs into the cave to look for the part. Yu sees it at the top of the Seismosaurus, so he climbs up the fucking dinosaur by himself, just do like it's nothing, because apparently in the wintertime it's easier to climb shit up. So then obviously he gets the piece, but then he falls. Yu falling leads to the most iconic scene in the movie, which honestly I think deserves an Oscar. Thank you, Rosie, for being an icon. So I manages to catch the gear that Yu dropped, because she's the main character, of course, and they head back to deliver the piece. So it's shown that everybody has found the piece and they're just waiting for the 5th part. So we assume that the main crew are the one with the 5th part, but then all of a sudden it's Champ who actually has the 5th part. Everyone's confused. I'm confused. It's just confusion all around. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, while they're trying to figure out what's going on, we see like 20 UFOs just pop into the scene and everybody's gagging. And like suddenly the part that I found, which was a gear, this was a gear. It like turns and morphs into like a black blob, and that black blob ends up being an alien. She's holding an alien in her arm. It's an unidentified life form just chilling in their Animal Crossing village. And then one of the 20 UFOs, they beam down their ray to collect the fucking alien part, I guess, and then like it engulfs Ai as well, and all of a sudden she's transported into like some new freaky realm, and like the alien morphs into her face to say thank you. This is still fucking Animal Crossing. Like this fucking movie is literally Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. It's like a nice cute vibe, very like soft rock core, you know, everyone's chilling, everyone's having a good time, and then all of a sudden it's the final track and there's a fucking alien spaceship for no reason. And then the aliens just like all leave and everybody's just like, what the fuck? And so am I. Why were there aliens to begin with? And then Yu has a face reveal, like good for him, I guess. And Ai sees Apollo and she asks him if he's still upset about the whole thing, and he says no, I was just being insecure. The aliens also drew Ai's face in the skies with literal stars, which causes I to win the winter festival that was going on. In case y'all forgot, Rosie was robbed once again because like all that hard work on her iconic house with the rock lighting, and like she just fucking loses because of aliens. She loses to aliens. Aliens! There were fucking aliens! So then right at the end, we have Floppimer just being there, and then he decides to reveal the results of an election. Yeah, did y'all forget about this election? Because so did I. And it doesn't even matter because the fucking Crust Lord wins. Of course he does, because he was the only one who voted, because literally no one gives a fuck about this damn elections. Register to vote. This is a perfect time for y'all to register to vote. Your vote matters. So then Gulliver is seen leaving and he's like, yeah, bye, deuces. And everyone is just like, why the fuck was he even here to begin with? Which, like, honestly, same. What's the point of Gulliver in general? So then it's revealed that he was the one who actually sent those ladders because he just wanted to have some big spectacle because he's an attention seeker. And he isn't even an alien, by the way. This just confirms the theory that I literally just made up on the spot, that Gulliver is a fraud. He's not a sailor, he's not a pirate, he's not an alien, he's a fucking fraud who's desperate for attention. Gulliver needs to go. He's just a fucking loser. And with that, the movie is over. And it's the end credit scene, and there's some notable things that you notice in the little slideshow that's playing. Like Blathers, who ends up getting the Seismosaurus, Hopper, who finally catches a fish, Whitney receives a bouquet of blue roses from somebody, and Nook's Cranny upgrades to Nook and Go, which is still not something that's happening in New Horizons. Nintendo, I'm gonna beat your ass. While I was rewatching the film, I never knew that there was a post-credit scene. I learned 10 years later that there's a post-credit scene in the Animal Crossing movie. And it's nothing special. It's just I telling her mom how, like, she's been living here for a year and she's thriving and vibing and living life. And she runs off to meet Celeste at the observatory once again. And then the camera pans down to show some Lily of the Valleys. And with that, we're at the end of the movie. This movie's cute, this movie's fun, but there are some important lessons and conclusions that I've come up with the movie. What can we learn from the Animal Crossing movie? Gulliver is a fraud, 11-year-olds are useless if they don't believe in themselves, and Rosie still doesn't fucking know what the cherry pie means. What the fuck? That's all I have to say. What the fuck?